What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you want to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Very good. I will make sure things proceed along those lines.
She gave me a satisfied nod. Just as she did, an elderly servant placed some tea in front of us. Gunther, I think his name was, just as strong as Louis Valentine but also one talented servant. Diablo was the same way, come to think of it. Who knew that butlers were such lean, mean fighting machines in this world? And now other servants were bringing drinks to Benimaru and Shion behind me. They weren't delayed, it was just that the impatient Luminous summoned me so quickly that they couldn't keep up. Luminous gave them a cold nod, a sign of a strict master-servant relationship, I thought. But
isn't that great? Now you can enjoy that music, too, soon.
It sounded pompous as she spoke to her attendants. But they didn't take it that way, saying, "Thank you very much, and I look forward to it," in return. They looked happy enough to me, so they definitely meant it. Their attitude to Luminous was based on respect, it seemed, not fear. I found it odd at first, and then I looked closer and realized they were all vampires. Their auras were wholly shut off, their powers restrained to the point that they were indiscernible from regular people. They were high-level vampires, I imagined, given how close they were to Luminous. Just the few of them here alone could easily topple an entire nation, I'm sure, and here they were serving tea to us. The world can be one irrational place sometimes.
Now, Gunther, carry out the necessary details when we return to Night Garden.
Yes, my lord.
Luminous nodded and took an elegant, silent sip of tea, a beautiful showcase of manners, one you'd want to teach to a debutante.
Ah, yes.
She brightly said as I stared enrapt at her.
That scientific presentation was quite interesting as well. Dissecting the effects of magicules is quite a fascinating idea to come up with. There are those on my staff with a rather odd interest in research. I was thinking we could send them here, but would you mind that?
I asked for some more details. The way she put it, there was still little in the way of cultured civilization among the humans who lived on the surface of Lubelius, but the underground mainland boasted a fairly decent level of technology.
Oh? That's surprising. I thought you wouldn't be so secretive with all that.
I dislike causing trouble for myself. If we were too conspicuous, we feared that a cursed lizard would find us, remember. I hardly want the angels interfering with us either. That's why I've had all our major research moved underground, until we can fully eradicate them.
She seemed proud of herself. The way she framed it, Luminous was the most powerful political ruler among all the demon lords. She was a vampire, so essentially immortal, with a lifespan transcending even that of elves. The more powerful among her kind didn't even need to eat, capable of sustaining themselves via minute doses of life energy from human beings. There was no doubting the fact that vampires sat at the top of the food chain. But even they had their deficiencies. Vampires were called rulers of the night, for good reason. They could wield untold powers in the darkness, but exposure to sunlight wiped them off the planet. It was a huge weakness, but even with it, they remained incredibly dangerous. But again, the more powerful among this advanced race, some among the noble classes under Luminous, could apparently overcome this weakness against the sun. These were called overcomers, and they could pretty much go around by day and do whatever they pleased. There were very few of them, which was a good thing, since a vampire without weaknesses would be a nightmare for humanity. Definitely a calamity-level threat, if not as much a one as Louis or Gunther. The servants here were overcomers as well. They served Luminous as a sort of hobby, it seemed, with, of course, a heavy nuance of being her bodyguards. Being an overcomer meant having no weak points and therefore a lot of free time on your hands. That was why so many of them enjoyed making assorted things for fun. They'd craft all sorts of junk, in fact, hoping to win Luminous's affections.
To be honest,
she said to me,
it's dreadfully irritating. I have ordered them to develop something more useful, but they're too fixated on their own ideas, I suppose. They've made no progress whatsoever. I would love for you to take them in and give them a little education.
I wouldn't mind that, but
of course I'd have qualms about the whole thing unless I got to meet Luminous's candidates. Being an overcomer meant enjoying life in the ruling class. Someone like them traveling to Tempest for study could lead to problems I had no way of predicting in advance. Luminous, perhaps seeing my indecision, made another offer.
I'm not asking you to work for free, of course. Perhaps I could offer a skill to you.
a skill?
Yes. The secret skills of faith and favor.
What's that? Sounds really cool, or at least cooler than the kinds of skills I came up with for myself, such as relearning how to get drunk.
What are those?
Oh, it's quite simple.
She gave me an evil, complacent smile.
It allows those faithful to you to harness some of your powers.
Whoa, that sounds dangerous. If she taught me this around all these people.
Report. Luminous has used spatial severance to isolate your location.
Raphael neatly pointed it out, cutting me off before I could get worked up. That would explain why I couldn't hear anyone besides ourselves right now. She really was a pillar among the strongest of demon lords. Setting off skills just came naturally to her.
So you'll teach me this in exchange for allowing your students to come here to live for a while? Am I understanding that right?
You are. I would be happy enough to have a cultural exchange with our musicians alone. In a way, this is my token of thanks to you.
She didn't appear to be lying.
All right, I'll take your offer.
Then, we have a deal.
We did. She'd have her musicians trained here, and I'd have my secret skills of faith and favor. To put it very simply, these skills were the principles behind all holy magic. It involved me using my name as a vessel in order to cast spells. Hinata and the paladins, for example, could wield holy magic by using Luminus's name as a vessel, borrowing a bit of her power with each use. If I could learn the trick behind it, more of the people under me could gain access to holy magic. Surprising, it seemed like I was getting a lot out of the bargain. Luminous being luminous, of course, I knew she had calculated all of this.
That sounds great to me, but are you sure about this?
Oh, I don't mind. You were likely to discover the truth of it for yourself in a few years' time anyway. It is best to take advantage of information while it is still valuable, is it not?
Ah, I thought. All right, and judging by Raphael's pained silence, it wouldn't have even been a few years. We were researching the nature of magicules, and after Hinata's battle, we already knew the existence of spiritual particles. Put those together, and the truth would have come to us naturally. Well, not to me but to Raphael, certainly. And Luminous, spotting this, simply offered it while she was still able to extract something from me for it.
Well, even so, I appreciate it, Luminous.
As long as you keep your side of the bargain, all is well.
Attempting negotiation with Luminous was still too heavy a task for me. This time it didn't hurt me, but I'd have to think things through more carefully from now on. I mused over this as I shook hands with her. Thus our budding orchestra would be traveling to Nightgarden shortly, while the noble overcomers serving Luminous would be coming here for research purposes. Once Luminous deactivated spatial severance, we relaxed a bit, as if nothing had happened. I kicked back and enjoyed my tea, listening as Luminous gave me her review of the morning's concert. It seemed like she was more enthusiastic about exchanges of the musical, and not scientific, sort. Most of her questions involved our orchestra and when we could get them over to her. Then, at the end.
By the way, Rimuru, there were some rather disagreeable people among the dignitaries you invited. Were you aware of them?
She acted casual about this, her tone unchanged. I wondered what she meant for a moment, but it had to be her way of warning me about something. I guess it wasn't my imagination after all.
Oh yes, that pair?
If you don't shirk your duty, and keep your wits about you with them, then very well. But I do hope you will make efforts not to denigrate the good name of the octagram.
That was her way of signaling the end of our conversation. I nodded at her and took my leave. After my spontaneous conversation with Luminous ended, it was time for dinner. For whatever reason, Yuuki, Hinata, and I were assigned to the same table. They were all smiles with each other, busily discussing the day's events and virtually drooling at all the food brought in. I could hardly wait to dig in myself as I listened to their reflections. There were two choices available for the evening's courses, Japanese and Western. Hinata went for Japanese, while Yuuki and I picked Western.
I tell you,
Yuuki began.
that was a seriously incredible performance. You really should have checked it out, Hinata. The food stalls'll be open later, you know.
Don't tell me what to do. I achieved what I set out to do today. What's the problem? Besides, the takoyaki was so good, and…
Her voice went down to a whisper and she started making excuses.
But really, though, you guys went with Alias.
I averted my eyes from Hinata, pretending to have no idea what she was talking about.
But no, I mean it, it's really worth listening to. I mean, I quite liked that one song already, but hearing it arranged for an orchestra, it just blew me away.
Nice one, Yuuki. His unbridled praise for Baton and company had successfully diverted Hinata's attention.
Alright,
she said, not sounding that peeved.
if you're going on about it that much, I'll take the kids there tomorrow.
Hinata, for her part, seemed to make the most of today, throwing her money up and down the festival, much to my appreciation. Clothes, weapons, armor, magic items, she bought it all, and at marked up festival prices, too. She also made her way up and down the food stalls, and honestly, I think she took the kids just as an excuse to stuff herself. They loved her, though, it sounded like, so I couldn't complain at all, especially since she'd already volunteered to watch them the next day.
Personally, I'm more interested in that research into magicules.
Hinata continued, lowering her voice again.
Healing potions don't really work on me, you know, because my body breaks down the magicules. And actually, there are some healing magics that work on me and some that don't.
She had apparently done a bit of research of her own, to see if there was any potion out there that worked on her. Having the ability to annul magic applied to her sounded good on paper, but the more you thought about it, the more inconveniences it created.
Yeah, you know, I haven't thought about it, huh? I'm affected by magicules too, I guess, so.
When you jump between worlds, you take in a vast amount of energy. Sometimes these manifest as skills, and sometimes it results in nothing, like with you, Yuuki. But you're right, you're still affected by them. You haven't grown at all, for one.
Whoa, don't put it that way. I haven't grown, no, but I've done a lot in my years here, you know?
I know. You don't have to get worked up every time I mention it. I'm just picking on you.
Maybe Hinata was just picking on him, but with those imposing eyes of hers? When she said stuff like that with her sharpened glare and joyless face, it really didn't sound much like a joke.
Alright, but you know, Rimuru, I'm fascinated by the directions you're taking your research here.
I appreciated the compliment, but Yuuki was really thinking too much of me.
No, that was really all Gabble and Vester's own work. I only learned about it the same time all of you did.
Oh?
Didn't you order them to do that research?
Hinata asked.
And you let them announce it to VIPs from around the world without even knowing what it was?
They both gave me incredulous looks.
This soup is good, huh?
I ventured, fleeing reality while I fished for an excuse.
But look, what could I do? I want them to be independent.
Not having any other ideas, I tried being more forceful in my approach. It didn't work. They just glared back at me.
Alright, I kind of regret that. I was really busy, but maybe I should have at least heard what it was first.
Too late now, of course.
Man, Rimuru, you sure are something, you know that?
Honestly, sometimes, I seriously think he's a real big shot. Sometimes.
That did not sound like praise to me, but ah well. Even I had to admit, it was kind of a slip-up. The presentation's content was great, but I got a bit nervous in the middle of it and Gazel admonished me about it as well. Already, I wanted to be more careful next time. Didn't think Yuuki and Hinata were gonna rake me over the coals about it, too, though. Fortunately for me, the conversation drifted back into small talk as the dinner continued. Thus, the first day of the Founders Festival closed to largely excellent reviews. It really felt like a strong start to me, and I had no doubt in my mind that it'd end a great success, not knowing, of course, that I'd learn in short order just how naive I was.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to David III, Rahul Subramanian, Hexelis Lux, John Mardi Malalawan, 172 Rishi, Meljun Arnopia, Mark Gian Prospero, Wilfred Miller, Imdada 115, and last but not least, shout out to LUMINUS Seka. I'll see you guys in the next video.